Rachel picked up her book bag and began to put her books and homework into it. Her friend Heather looked up. "Can I borrow this book?" She took out a book about exotic flowers. "Of course," said Rachel. "Just make sure to return it when it's due. I still have it for a week. I always return my books on time." Heather thanked Rachel, and then Rachel left the library. Heather put the book on exotic flowers into her backpack, stood up and left too. She got on her bike and rode home. "It's your turn to wash the dishes, Heather," said Mum as Heather hurried in. Heather nodded. "Yes, Mum, I'll do them tonight." Heather then hurried past Mum, went up the stairs and past her younger brother Jeff. "Can we play tonight?" he asked. Heather nodded. "Yes, of course." And then Heather went into her room, slammed the door and plopped down on her bed. She was exhausted. What a long day! Remembering her promise to Rachel, she thought she might jot down a reminder for herself to return the library book, but she was too tired. "I'll do it later," she thought. And then Heather went to sleep. Jeff nudged his sister awake. Heather looked up, wide-eyed. "You said you'd play with me. Now it's bedtime," he frowned and hurried out of Heather's room. Heather looked at the clock. It was already 8:30. She jumped up and hurried downstairs. "The dishes are still waiting," Mum sighed. Heather nodded and grabbed the plastic gloves off the edge of the sink. "Sorry, Mum." After washing the dishes, Heather finished the rest of her homework. She noticed the book on exotic flowers in her backpack. "I'll make a note for myself tomorrow. I know I said I'd return it, but I can wait a day to remind myself." Across town, at the UltraKids Club headquarters, Penelope and Malachi were cleaning up their ready room. The ready room was where the UltraKids kept all their fresh, clean superhero outfits, masks and other things that they could grab on the way out. Malachi swept some dust off the floor, while Penelope organised the outfits and other gear into tidy piles and rows. "Oh, Malachi," said Penelope brightly, "your favourite colour wouldn't be yellow, would it?" Malachi looked up sheepishly. Why'd you say that?" Penelope held up a pile of yellow masks, boots and gloves. "Because these are all yours and they're all in the wrong place." "Whoops," said Malachi. "My bad. Sorry, Penelope. I know I told you I'd organise my things last week. I should do what I say and say what I do. I guess I got caught up after taking everything to the cleaners." "Well," said Penelope, "what do we do when we get caught up with things?" "Take time out and breathe," said Malachi, "and then make sure you're living up to what you say you can do." Penelope smiled. "I'll organise your things today, Malachi, since you're so kind as to sweep the entire UltraKids Club headquarters for us." "The entire headquarters?" said Malachi, wide-eyed. "But—" Just then, the red Ultra alarm began to flash. The UltraKids rushed into the mission room. Malachi pressed a red button and a girl appeared on the big screen in front of them. It was Heather. "Uh-oh," said Penelope. "Looks like we have another case of someone having to learn what it means to say what you do and do what you say." Malachi snapped his fingers. "That's right. Come on." The kids rushed to their Ultra ship, jumped in and zipped into the air. They flew across town to where Heather lived in the second floor of a brown brick house. Heather unpacked her backpack and the book on exotic flowers dropped out onto the floor. "Uh-oh," she said. The book was due in yesterday. Malachi and Penelope beamed into the room from their ship. "Hi, Heather," said Penelope. Heather started, turning round to see the two UltraKids. "What are you doing here?" Penelope bent down and picked up the library book about exotic flowers. A brilliant photograph of a rare red rose was printed on the cover. She held it up. "This shouldn't be here, should it?" Heather looked away, her face red. "No," she admitted, "it shouldn't. I told Rachel I'd bring it back to the library for her after borrowing it, but Malachi put a hand on Heather's shoulder. "Listen," he said softly, "don't worry. I've been there too. When we don't do what we say we'll do, it happens. But if we start doing it all the time, our words don't mean much." "That's right," said Penelope. "Now why don't we make this right? Do you have a quid or two in case you need to pay a fine?" Heather sighed, taking some money out of her purse on her desk. "Yes, but I was saving it." Malachi nodded. "Sometimes, in order to learn, we have to learn the hard way. I know I have." He looked at Penelope, who grinned. "Come on, let's go." Heather followed the UltraKids as they beamed away, and she found herself on their ship. They zoomed to the library where Heather paid a fine of 20 pence. "Not bad," said Penelope, "but I'm sure you'll remember that it's important to say what you do and do what you say." Heather nodded. "Oh," she said, "that's right. I told my little brother Jeff that I'd play with him tonight. UltraKids, thank you, but I've got to go now." The UltraKids zipped Heather back home, where she promptly went to Jeff's room and played blocks with him until bedtime. Back at headquarters, Malachi finished sweeping all the rooms. He came into the break room where Penelope had her feet up on a chair resting. "All done?" she asked. Malachi, out of breath, sat down on a chair. "Yep," he said proudly, "and it feels good. All in a day's work, right, partner?" Penelope laughed. "That's right." And then she threw him a bottle of water. "You deserve it, partner, for saying what you do and doing what you say."